Hey, I already made a Water 7 video, but there's still a few additional points that I wanted to talk about, especially about the fights that happened. Like for example, Sanji versus Ramen Kempo, who has the ability to create ramen noodles and fight with it. And as you may know, Sanji usually fights with his legs, right? Because he only uses his hands for cooking and that's his policy. However, we saw him for the first time fighting with knives instead of his legs. It was for a brief moment, but it was very interesting to see. It made me think about how powerful would he actually be if he uses knives or swords in his fights. But you know what? Nah, the Straw Hats only need one Swordsman. Plus, I think that his legs are as powerful as swords, but it would be nice to see him use knives again. Okay, another fight that I found really interesting is Nami versus Khalifa. Kako and Khalifa had new Devil Fruit abilities, and I found it really surprising that they kinda adapted to their new powers easily. Well, not Kako, I guess. That poor guy was suffering mentally and physically. I'ma get into that later, but first Nami and Khalifa. Seeing Nami fighting is always interesting. She can't use swords, she's not good with her fists, but she uses her brain pretty well. If you think about it, Khalifa's new ability was busted. She can make herself nearly impossible to hit, and she can make her opponents stop moving completely. But Nami outsmarted her and defeated her by controlling the weather. This fight was pretty similar to Nami versus Double Finger. Now moving on to Zoro and Usopp versus Kako and Jabra. As I said in my previous video, Zoro and Usopp handcuffed together was the funniest thing ever. And the way Zoro just casually said, "Let's play rock paper scissors and I'll cut off the hand of the loser." And yeah, knowing Zoro, he'd 100% do that. And of course Sogeking was like, absolutely no way. So instead he became Zoro's sword and well, it didn't go pretty well. Sogeking's soul would leave his body every time Zoro moves. Meanwhile, Kako was being bullied by Jabra because of his appearance. And Kako indeed looked so silly in his giraffe form. And he was like, "Joke's on you, I like giraffes." He was straight up inhaling copium. Later, Zoro defeated Kako using his new attack, Ashura. And it was yet another cold Zoro scene. And Jabra was also defeated by Sanji. I feel like if Kako and Khalifa got used to their powers and trained properly, it would have been a way harder fight for Zoro and Nami. And now moving on to Luffy versus Lucci. I did talk about this fight, but I'll do it again, because that fight was an absolute masterpiece. Everything about it was amazing. The way Luffy just refused to be defeated, and he just kept getting up again and again. At the end, he finished Lucci off with a jet Gatling, and it was so freaking satisfying. The soundtrack was on point and it was beautiful. The voice acting capturing complete pain and exhaustion. So yep, 10 out of 10 fight. The last thing that I want to talk about, and probably the most important, is Sogeking shooting the world government's flag. Now, what was really amazing was not actually Luffy saying shoot the flag, but what was really amazing is that none of the Straw Hats said anything. Especially Sogeking, like knowing him, he would freak out. But he shot the flag with no hesitation at all, and with style. And the rest of the Straw Hats just watched him quietly. I feel like this moment had so much meaning to it. It showed how far the Straw Hats are willing to go for Luffy, to the point that if he said the word, they will fight the world government for him. It was so crazy. And oh, one more thing. If you're skipping the fillers, you are missing out a lot. Like, when will we ever get the chance to see Mama Zoro again? No, but like, jokes aside though, the fillers are really good and hilarious. And I guess that's it. Please feel free to check out my first video. I would appreciate it a lot. Subscribe, like if you enjoyed, and bye bye.